welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the Center for Tribes. We're excited to share with you today some of the changes we have and the services we have for you, and just the array of services we have. We want to just emphasize on some areas that we're going to be doing differently. We have a lot of staff that are joining us, so we're hoping that they can say hello, at least in the chat room. We'll spend the first half hour with Rita, and we will just talk a little bit about what those services are that we'll be offering. And then we really want to spend the last half hour hearing back from you, finding out how everybody's doing out there, and potentially offer some ways that we can connect. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But right now I'm excited to have Dr. Shoulders joining us from the Children's Bureau. And I would love it if you could just take a minute and introduce yourself, and then, just let us know. I'm just glad you're here, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shonda Shoulders, and I appreciate the time just to say hello to everyone. I want to bring you greetings from all of Children's Bureau. I see we have 116 participants on. I was able to see some of my colleagues within Children's Bureau on here as well. I just don't want to start calling names and then folks feel like that I did not acknowledge you. So this is a greeting from all of CB, that is our central and regional office. And we're just excited to partner with CBCT and continue to provide you the necessary capacity building services that you need in order to support you. So again, it's an honor and a pleasure as always. I'm seeing some of the chats that come through. I was scrolling through as much as I could real quick to see some of the faces and names. And as we always say, when we get together, it truly feels like family. So I'm glad for that, Phil. I'm glad to see people's faces, knowing that people are healthy and safe, and let's please keep it that way. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Jackie. And again, I appreciate everyone that's on this webinar.
Thank you, and thanks for taking some time out to do that, Rashonda.
Absolutely.
So now I'm excited to introduce everybody to our new director. So I'm going to quickly, just given the hour, and I also want folks to know that we were really trying to be mindful of, a lot of you have been doing some Zooming all day long. So, we know that we have a lot of information to share in this hour, but, we're going to really try to flow through it quickly. But I just, again, wanted to be mindful of how much Zooming time we've all had. So I'm going to just turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Jackie. Can you hear me okay? I always wonder about that whenever I start talking. So as long as my audio is well, then I'll go ahead and get started. My family always encourages me to introduce myself in our native language. So I'm going to attempt to do this. So if there's someone on here that's Hickory Apache, forgive me. I'm going to do this the best I can. Lakajo, Shikia Kion Ontashli, Shiji Rita Hart, Cleobachishli, Ashli Chatashli Asia. Greetings, I am Rita Hart of the Hickory Apache Nation, and I'm also a descendant of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And so as I was saying that in my Apache language, it's also in my Okie accent, so hopefully it wasn't too bad. But I'm honored to be with all of you today. I come to you as the new director of the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. And I take that with very high respect. I mean, it's a position that I am honored to fill. But then, my heart goes out to all of our tribes. This is where I feel that I need to be serving all of you and all of our partners and everyone, that we come in contact with. And so it's good to see all of the names. I'm seeing names, some faces, and I said, oh, I know that person. I haven't seen them in so long. So it's a connection that I cherish. And granted, the times that we're doing this virtually, and I so wish we were in person. And so just a little bit of, first of all, though, I wanted to express apologies from Kathy Desertly. She's our former director with the Center for Tribes, and she had intended to be here to present with me, and she had some other responsibilities, so she's not here, so she wanted to express her apologies. But I wanted to say, that I really appreciate working alongside her. She just brings so much experience and insight with our center. So I know that she too is sorry that she couldn't be here. And so just a little bit about me. My home is in Oklahoma. I spent a lot of my time in New Mexico. My mom was from New Mexico, so I feel like I have two homes. I've always went back and forth through my whole life and spending time with family. And for my 29-year, I had to go back and count because it's been a while. But my 29-year career has been in child welfare. You know, I started early on with the Indian Child Welfare Program with the Choctaw Nation, and then moved into child welfare with the state of Oklahoma, which I spent the majority of my time. And then there was 1 year retirement, which, you know, I thought I was done, never come back, but here I am again. But it's been a good, you know, the creator, you know, he advised me that I wasn't done yet. So I came back and went to work for the BIA of Eastern Oklahoma as a social worker, and did that for a couple of years, and then ended back coming on to the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. So this has been a really good, enriching career that I've had. And so you know, as I'm here, I'm going to devote all of my time, you know, all of my experience, everything that I know, all the connections that I have. There are so many people that I know that I just want to bring us all together. You know, what we can do for our Indigenous people is so important and so vital, you know, especially in the times that we're in right now. And so I want to go ahead and go into our presentation, which Jackie had mentioned. You know, we're going to divide this up in two different pieces or different parts. So, you know, my part is just going to explain, you know, our services we have with the center, and then I'll turn it over to her and we'll go into some discussions on how best we can serve you. So going into the first slide, one of the areas with our Capacity Building Center for Tribes, and when I look at this slide, you know, I see our drum, you know, our hands, and, you know, our core principles are what guides us. We have, you know, we're very culturally responsive, you know, we want to build collaborations. We want to be respectful of the tribes we serve, or the partnerships we create, you know, whether it be with our stakeholders or others that we work with. And then, of course, honoring tribal sovereignty, you know, that's a very important piece. And then also to be outcome focused, because as we're working with alongside the Children's Bureau, you know, we want to make sure that we're achieving some of those goals that you have in combination with them. And so as we think about all of these core principles, and I think about the climate that we're in, you know, at this time, you know, we're all facing some of the challenges with, you know, COVID-19. You know, I keep up with all of our different reservations, our Indian communities. You know, all of you are facing so many challenges, and I know several of you your offices are closed, or you're working with limited staff, and you know, where we have stay-at-home orders. I mean, there's so many things that are facing us, and it's not only what's affecting, you know, our work, but it's also affecting your own family. So I also think about those things as we're having, you know, to try to support you, you know, what are the ways that we can keep all of us together. And so it's really a trying time for us all. And, you know, many of my prayers daily are you know, are on those subjects. And, you know, I try to also, you know, as I'm working from home as well, and we're having to ensure my family is safe. I mean, some of the decisions we make these days are so, you know, there's so many areas that we have to consider. You know, the consequences, even just going out to shop for groceries. And so, you know, as we're having some discussions, and I've heard so many stories about the, you know, the offices and the condition you're in. And so that's what we're focusing on now as we're opening our doors for the center, is to have those conversations with you and find out, you know, where you are, what is it you need, and, you know, how can we partner, and, you know, especially with our regions and our state partners and the courts, and, you know, because we're all facing all of these same challenges. So as I go into some of our services and talk about them, I want to also impress upon you that our focus this time is not so much as thinking about our services, you know, as three different components, but to integrate them and to keep them all in focus as we're talking, you know, as we're receiving any kind of request for tribes, from regions, from any, you know, entity, that we're also thinking about, you know, how best can we meet those needs. And so we go to the next slide. And this is who we serve. And so as our center, you know, it's as we're working within, you know, under the auspices of the Children's Bureau, we work with all of those tribal programs that have 4B or 4E funding. So it's the federally recognized American Indian or Alaskan Native programs. And so as we serve them, we provide technical assistance and guidance through all of those different funding sources. And so one of the areas that we did add this time around is we do have a new staff. She comes with a wealth of experience, and her name is Rachel Ford. Some of you know her. She's from Oklahoma, and she operated or helped assisted with the financial piece of their 4E work with the Cherokee Nation. And so as she's coming on board with the Center for Tribes, she's working alongside Carlette Randall with the Children's Bureau, and they're implementing several supports for the tribes and the 4E grantees. So you'll see her name a lot as we move forward. And one of the other things I wanted to impress too is that there is no wrong door. As you know, we are moving toward a centralized inquiry service. So we have a email address, we have a 1-800 number you can call and to request services. But it doesn't mean that you can't call any of us at the Center for Tribes, and we'll do everything we can to assist you. And with our team, we have a consortium of experts. You know, we all come from different entities, and so as we go forward, we just want to make sure we pull all of that information, all of our knowledge, and everything we share. You know, how we can deliver our services.
Rita, someone mentioned that you're a little difficult to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll just hold up my mic. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Sorry. So is that better?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, great. And one of the other things, if you see me, I'm in Oklahoma, so the humidity is hit. So I'm have to wipe my face a little bit. So we'll go forward with the next slide. And this is our center. This is our team of expertise that we bring to you as you may call in and ask for services. In the center, the two-center diagram, the University of Denver is the Butler Institute for Families, and that's who I am employed with as a director. And that's where Rachel, she is also employed for the university, and we have other team, our evaluation team, Nancy Lucero, some of you know her, and Robin Lee, they're also part of our leadership team. And then we have the Tribal Law Policy Institute, who's also a direct partner with us. And so that's where Kathy Desertly comes in. Her and her team, they provide the tailored services, and also if you call in for request for services, it goes through their program. And so the outer diamonds, these are our consulting organizations, and they make up different, they have different expertise. The majority of them are collectively have years of experience either working with the state, with the tribes, with the courts. Some have mental health, behavioral health, and so we rely on them to help us as we deliver our services. And so the two that's returning for the Center for Tribes is Color Institute, and that's for the University of Southern Maine. And they do a lot of our universal services. So for example, with this webinar, Jackie Croshoe, that's where she's employed by, and also with Laura Dyer, who's also helping with this webinar. And so those two are there along with another team of experts. And then WestStat, they are we call them the arm of our data technology. So they assist us and support us with any requests that come in, and if it's anything that has to do with data and technology. And they've been out, I'm sure you've seen some of their presentations they've done with GIS, and I think they have a vendor scan where they've worked with 4E grantees. So there's a whole list of products, that each of our organizations can provide. And our new organizations that's come on is the National Native Children's Trauma Center, and they're out of Montana, and they have some correlation with the University of Montana. And so for them, they're bringing on all of the trauma and resiliency. We're focusing on making sure all of our services are trauma related. We have that information and we're responding to that, and also just building on that resiliency within each of our tribal programs. And then the OU school, the Tulsa OU campus, that's another area, and it's also, they renamed their center. It's now called the Center of Tribal Social Work. And that's something new. They're also expanding out into providing training and workforce development. And so we're bringing them on board, and they're going to be working with us on developing a Tribal Worker Academy. So we're really excited to have that included with our services this time around. Oh, and one of the other things I wanted to also mention is that we work collaboratively with the 3 child welfare capacity building centers. There's the Capacity Building Center for courts, the Capacity Center for states, and each of these are consolidated so that we can help meet some of the standards, improve child welfare practice, achieve safety, permanence, and well-being for our children and youth and families. And so we continually work together. There's two other directors similar to my role, and we meet regularly and talk about, the national level, some of the things we can do to develop partnerships and work together as we work with our states and our tribes and our courts. And so we'll get to the next slide. And so I want to spend a little bit more time here because this really explains our services as we move forward. And one of the things we also want to note, in our current climate, with the COVID-19, we know that a majority of you are having to work from home, we're working remotely, and very limited on being able to go out and do actual services with your families and meeting with your stakeholders. So we know there's a lot of uncertainties, and we don't know when this is going to end, and what's going to happen in the next few months. So we want to just make sure that as we talk about our services, that you realize that we can, we're going to be adaptable. We're going to try to meet you where you are. I know we might be limited in face-to-face interaction, but we can also do this virtually. And, as most of us see with a lot of our, other organizations, we see a lot of webinars being delivered. We see a lot of these Zoom meetings, and, just different avenues that we can do this virtually so that we can serve you and just have these meetings and continue that, that connection. And so the first service we have is universal services. And this is our global outreach. And this is where we provide as much information as we can that is practical. The resources for all of our tribal child welfare professionals. And many of these resources are developed by the request of the tribes. And so some of these products that you'll see, and we're coming out with a whole list of different areas, and the majority of this is being it's available on our tribal information exchange. And when Jackie comes back on to this webinar, she'll share a little bit more with you on that. But we have web content, we have electronic publications, audio, video, presentations, and just so much other products, tools for tribes. There is so much there that I think we want to make sure that you have anything that's useful and timely, and also that features some promising practices that's available out there in Indian country. And so the second one is a targeted service. And this one is to build supportive relationships between groups of tribal child welfare professionals. So these services are designed to enhance the knowledge and skills through networking and sharing innovations and promising practices. And so some of these may be available through a webinar similar to this, or something where we're going to be sharing information, even from peer to peer. It's like a virtual community of practice. And then of course we're going to be offering within this is the online learning courses and also our training academies. And so we also are offering a tribal child welfare leadership academy. And this one has been we've been working on for the last couple of years, and it's completed. I'm excited to see that's going to be rolling out soon. And with this leadership academy, we had piloted this in a couple of different areas. One was in the state of Oklahoma, and we had a group that came from this Shawnee area CPT, and they were many of their leadership came together. They went through our curriculum and our training. And then the second one was in New Mexico, and we offered it to the New Mexico Tribal Consortium. So we had all of their leadership come together, and we delivered the training. And so through those two pilots, we were able to fine tune, the training itself is now, the curriculum is, it's ready. I think it's going to be published soon. So that's something we'll have on our tie. And another component to the academy is coaching services. So that's another area that we're working on. And so as we move forward, all of these things are fluid, and we're wanting to make sure that they meet the best needs of what you have in your programs. And the last one is our tribal state partnership team. This is one that it's kind of a new area, and our focus is to be able to support ICWA compliance. And so Nancy Lucero is leading that initiative, and she'll be working with different areas and regions and developing those partnerships and see what we can do to support that. So each of these areas are just additions so that we can support your workforce internally and externally. And so as we go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. My notes here. Let me go back for a minute. I'm sorry. I missed tailored services. I don't know why I missed that one, because this one's one of the ones that we did so well on the last 5 years. And this one is where it was individualized. It's one where we provided technical assistance with specific tribal child welfare programs. And so, and the TLPI or Kathy Deserly's group, you know, they worked individually with several tribes, and the services within those that they adopted are similar this go around. And so what we're wanting to do is enhance upon those, and the intent is to build capacities through organizational change and system improvement. So this might include training, coaching, consultation to help agencies or tribal agencies to assess their needs and improve performance. And all of that's to achieve positive outcomes for children and families. And so just a few examples of some of the things they've done in the past. They've been assisting tribes with policy development. They've done practice mapping. They've identified some data management systems, and just any models that's just been building those capacities within the tribal child welfare programs. And so again, I think I mentioned earlier about how these service arrays, even though there's three separate topical areas or titles, our intent is to integrate each of these in a multifaceted approach. And so as the tribe may call in for services, you know, they're having an inquiry, and then we'll have an exploration call. So during that exploration call, we're going to be asking questions about, you know, what is it you need with your programs, the size of your program, you know, do you have support within your communities, within your tribal leadership, and assess, you know, how best we can serve you. And so it could be, as we're exploring these different areas, that we may find with this particular tribe, you may, any of these services may be able to assist you. And so you may have all three of these, universal, targeted, or tailored at one given time. Or it could be, you may just be, you know, perhaps you may just be searching for training. So you're wanting training for your workers, then we would refer you to targeted services. And so this process is one that was in place the last 5 years, but what we're doing this time around is just making a concentrated effort that we are including all three as we move forward. And so it's a collaborative process, and it's also one where we're going to be continuing that assessment and exploration. So before we go on, I know I covered these pretty briefly because we knew we had a two-part series within this presentation. And so I just wanted to stop here just for a few minutes and see if there's any questions you might have or clarification. And of course, the chat room's available. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to post anything there. So Laura, was there any questions or anything in the chat room?
Nope, I'm not seeing any questions come in, and I just want to quickly remind folks too that if there's anyone who is on telephone only, if you would like to ask a question, you can unmute your telephone line by pressing *6. And we did have one question come in. Can you share more about the tribal state effort?
The tribal state partnership services that we're going to be providing is one that it's not really going to occur this year, but we're planning how we're going to implement this within year 2, which will begin in October. And so part of the discussions we're having now is, you know, what are the areas, you know, that we can identify that would help support those tribal state partnerships that would support ICWA compliance. And so, as you know, there are several different areas if you're considering the courts. You know, if you think about ICWA in the topical area, there's active efforts, diligent search, there's placement preferences, and so it could be any number of those. And in speaking with Nancy Lucero, I know she's talked at different times about, there was a initiative several years ago by Casey Family Programs where they had conducted a diligent search or diligent recruitment model or effort. And so that's one that may be an example for us to follow. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but it may be something that can let you think about, how this would evolve within our tribes and our states, as we work together.
Thank you, Rita.
Good question, Tom.
Rita, can you explain what you meant by universal assistance again? And before you do too, I just want to share that I'm about to put a link in the chat where it's going to link to the About Us page on our Tribal Information Exchange. And there we have an updated brochure about our center that lists out these 3 service areas with descriptions as well. So I'm going to add that to the chat now, but someone wanted a little more about the universal services.
All right, thank you, Laura, for putting that on there, because it does have the links, and especially to our Tribal Information Exchange. That's our website. And so when we're speaking about global outreach, majority of our services, our products, our presentations, it can be anything from web content, electronic publications. We try to put as many products as we know into this website, so that's accessible by anyone. And so when we say universal, it can be anyone within, that can access the website. I mean, it's global. And so if you go into and that's one thing that Jackie, when she comes back onto the presentation, she'll go over that just a little, show you the website and what it, some of the components that, will share that information. So I hope that answers your question.
Great.
Okay, good. We are within 2:30, so I think I stayed within my time, Jackie. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rita.
We're doing it. That's good, Rita. Thank you. And I know we recognized when we were putting this information together, I don't know that it's as important for folks to be able to differentiate between the different services, but we have to be mindful that our target audience is 4B and 4E, but that we also have services available for all of the other tribes who may not be receiving 4B or 4E funds. And then also the tailored is really that TTA, the staff that are getting out there. And because, we are in the times that we are at, they're trying to be a little bit more innovative and reaching you all virtually. But it can be a little complicated. So I appreciate you, Laura, putting that link up, as well as in that Tribal Information Exchange, we have that brochure. She also put up for you all that does describe a little bit more too in depth about the services that we're talking about. But just going back to, and Rita, I really appreciate the way that you opened it up, the way that you greeted us in your language. One thing that we have felt that really separates us too is, we're not a huge center, but we're still pretty mighty. And we do, want to honor and recognize all of our cultural ways of doing, our beliefs, our values, recognizing the different ways that the tribes are set up. And, it's important to us that when we come to you, that, we wanted to spend some of this time hearing from you, asking how you're doing, finding out kind of what's going on instead of us maybe assuming and then doing a presentation based on that assumption. So we wanted to, I guess, take that time now. And for those of you, okay, this is kind of funny, I have to admit, like Laura made me a host, which was probably not the smartest thing because I might end up like, ew, who knows? So I'm trying not to touch things too much. I'm trying to look at the chat room. But then I see faces that I love or that I recognize, like, hey, Lenny, hey, Sandy, hey, Lorraine. Like, there's all these people out there that I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you guys. So I'm a little like that, what do they call where they're so just dory, I'm kind of distracted, but I'm going to try to focus because what we want you guys to do, if you didn't already, is just tell us which tribe you're with. If you could tell us in the chat room, just give us your name and the tribe that you work with, or the tribe that you come from. Not all of us work for the tribes that we belong to, just so we can get an idea. We want to really capture too what's happening in the chat room, and it's going to lend to, you know, how we continue to provide these webinars and resources to you. And then some of you, we might just do shout outs as we see you coming in. Particularly, some of you have already said hello, but you also can now see who else is in there. Take a look at your peers that are in the chat room and that have joined us today. Because one of the things that the Capacity Building Center for Tribes really works hard at doing is just connecting all of you together, because we feel that you are, you know, and I'm from the Turtle Mountain tribe in North Dakota, and you know, some of my best resources are my Indigenous brothers and sisters, right? And some of us who are working in child welfare, we want to kind of find out, hey, what is this other tribe doing in your child welfare department? So I just want folks to get an idea of who's out there, and we see all kinds of names, Sac and Fox coming in, some Nebraska tribes out there, Sault Ste. Marie. So yay, lots. I'm excited. So the next thing I want to do is just find out to, you know, Laura's going to pull up some poll questions, and I want you guys, as comfortable as you feel, to just answer yes or no with these poll questions, because again, we're going to gather this information and hopefully use it in order to continue to create more resources for you all. So a couple of the poll questions, Laura, if you are ready, we could pull up that first one. And this really kind of pertains to where we are at today, and just the times that we are at. And I apologize that, you know, I'm not going into too much of what's happening. I think we all recognize that it's extremely difficult. It's been painful for many. So, you know, we definitely know that some of our nations have had more struggles than others. Some, you know, are in really challenged with resources now, with the casino revenues coming in, infrastructures are changing, shutdowns are happening, challenges with state folks. So really what we want to find out is, do you feel like you have the tools and support right now today necessary to meet the needs of your staff or of the staff and the families that you're working with? And so you can see some of the results coming in. And, you know, if there are tools that you can identify that you feel you would need, you know, go ahead too and put that in the chat room. But the idea, you know, in us wanting to get a better feel for whether you are or not. And again, you know, we could be asking this question tomorrow with 100 more tribes and get different answers. But today, you know, we're seeing that most of you feel somewhat, I see coming in here. Some of you are really struggling with some internet access. And again, you know, it's always tricky recognizing, like I mentioned earlier, the different infrastructures that are happening out there. I know and have worked with tribes where there's been 5 people total. And, you know, and then there's some nations out there that have hundreds of staff. And so again, recognizing that, you know, that we recognize that you all have varying ways of governing, and we want to respect that. But it's almost like why we want to provide more tailored services for you. So again, you can see the results of that. It looks like 65% are saying somewhat. And again, if there are things that you know of that you think you could use, please don't hesitate to write them in the chat room. But as I mentioned in the beginning, we're also going to look at some things that we want to potentially offer you to maybe help alleviate some of the stress or provide you with more tools. So thanks for that poll. And Laura, maybe we could do another one that I think is equally important around our own self-care. I know for myself, you know, really working hard to introduce what can I do to take care of my anxiety or my fears? You know, it's one thing that we have all of these families and social service programs where we're trying to manage our resource families and staff and, you know, and then it's our own families too, right? And as Indigenous people, you know, there's not a whole lot of separation with that. The families we work with are our families. So we know how personal this can be, but how also important it is for us to find some tools to take care of our spirits as we're going through this, as we're making hard decisions. And yay, it's good. A lot of folks are feeling like, yeah. So it looks like 87% are saying that you have found some self-care techniques. And if anybody cares to share what those are, feel free to put that in the chat room as well. I know one thing I ended up doing is learning how to do some meditation. You know, I'm not finding myself in my sweat lodges like I was before. So I have had to look for things that I can kind of do alone in my home. And meditation has been one that I've been finding a lot of peace and some serenity. So if others want to put in the chat room things that you have found regarding your self-care, feel free to share that with others. Oh, yoga. Oh, I want to do yoga. Somebody was going to try to teach me to do the splits, and I thought I can't even touch my toes. But yoga is definitely one. Stretching in our bodies, especially when we're sitting in front of these, the Zooming all day long, right? Outdoors, nature, hiking. Yes, good. I love it. And again, you know, I always pride ourselves because as Indigenous people, you know, we truly, truly have the resources, don't we? We have our medicines, we have our teas, you know, we have our ceremonies. So it's beautiful to hear and read that others are doing this as well. We know how to make our prayer ties. Singing by the fire. Oh, that just gave me goosebumps. I love that. Inipi, yep. We love our sweats, planting and gardening, being outside. And aren't we so glad that at least we're on this side of winter right now? Oh, okay, so I should probably keep moving here. I just get excited reading all of the responses here in the chat room. So what I want to do now is really take some time and find out. I'm going to put up the next slide, or Adrian is, because I cannot multitask like that. But Adrian's going to put up a slide. So take a look at some of what we have here. So recognizing that some of our services entailed us going out there into the field and providing some training and technical assistance kind of face-to-face with you guys. Well, recognizing that's not happening, you know, we really wanted to think about as a center, what are ways we can connect with you all? What are some things that we can do to reach out and hear how things are going, find out what resources you may be needing, and also recognizing, as Rita put up, you could see all of the consulting organizations that make up the center. And with those consulting organizations, I mean, we're talking about the University of Montana, where they have the National Native Children's Trauma Center. Like, how blessed and fortunate is the center to have the expert like that? And in fact, we have a couple of the staff with us on this webinar. But also, so, you know, can they provide a constituency group is what we're calling them. And really what it is how do we get you all kind of together more informally, not like this, not like a webinar, but similarly, virtually. How do we get you guys to come in and have a conversation about being trauma informed? What does that look like? Or if you are a tribe that has perhaps used practices that are trauma informed, how do you share those with another tribe? We also thought about ICWA. We used to have the last round ICWA peer-to-peer groups that would come in, and it could be on anything from responses, it could be on qualified expert witness testimony, you know, recognizing it's the state's responsibility, but what do the tribes need to be responsive? And so how can we connect you to existing online trainings that are out there? I just saw NICWA posted an online ICWA training. You know, how can we connect you, or any topic under ICWA. Data and technology, we also have the WestAT folks, and I think Marnie and Carla and some other folks from WestAT are with us. We recognize for those of you that are 4E or 4B, you've had some challenges or questions around reporting, data systems, so they could potentially provide a constituency group. We have the tools for tribes, which is really such an excellent, I see Nanette's on here and the region she works with, and I know everybody's jelly because they got one of the best regional officers like Nanette, but she had also thought, hey, how can I share some of the resources that the tribes are wanting to share? Case planning, assessment tools, you name it. We have so many resources from tribes for tribes, right? We've got disaster planning in there because of the times we're in. Some of us have had to kind of think on our feet and look at some emergency response planning, diligent recruitment, resource families, how we're meeting the needs. So you can see, and I'm exhausted recognizing how much you all do out there, but you know, there's, and then the prevention programming. So I want Laura to pull up, if she wouldn't mind. What I'd love for you guys to do is perhaps indicate which one on here you are interested in, and check them. Like and you can check more than one. And if you have questions about them, you could put it in the chat, and perhaps some of our staff who are with us on this webinar can help answer those questions. But is there anything that really sparks your interest? Again, you can have more than one answer, or I mean, more than one choice. And most importantly, if we didn't cover one and you're like, man, I need some help with this, that's what the and more is. So let us know in the chat if we missed something that you feel you really need, that would be beneficial to where you are and what you need in the work that you're doing. So I'm going to take a breath because I can get a little excited about this, as you can see. And then just take a look at some of what's coming up in the chat room. So it looks like it feels pretty even. Is there any questions? You can definitely unmute if there is something you just want to ask that you're rather not have to type it all out. Although I see some of you have taken the time to do that, and I've really appreciated that. Yeah, there's a good one. Communicating with leadership on outcomes and monitoring systems. I love these ideas. And again, you know, there might be some that the center may not be able to provide, but even if we can connect you to another organization that can provide it, like that's the whole idea. We want to be able to just engage with you all and figure out, you know, ways that we can make your life easier, recognizing that the work you do is some of the hardest work that anybody does. Healing to wellness plans for pregnant and postpartum women. Oh, that's good. And infants affected by prenatal substance exposure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we haven't heard as much as we used to about fetal alcohol. It feels like we used to hear a lot more about fetal alcohol exposure, fetal alcohol syndrome. Okay, these are good. I thank you all for these suggestions. Vets, traditional organizations, yes, yes, yes. Yes, excellent. I'm excited that you guys are interested and excited about these. And for the staff that are out there that, you know, like maybe Laura Gay or others, you you know, if there's anything that you want to say or questions, like we have the data and tech people here, we have the trauma informed with us. Let's see, I'm multitasking and I am not the greatest at that. Data and technology, recruitment, disaster. Yeah, kinship navigator program, community outreach. Yeah, it looks like somebody's like, bring it on. Good. All right, so just recognizing that, you know, we're going to take what we've learned from you all today and just determine the next steps. Hopefully very soon we will be able to get these groups organized for you all, and get a staff who can be responsive to what we are learning today. This has been so helpful. Oh, Suzanne Garcia's on, yay. Suzanne's talking about the Tribal Law and Policy Institute has been working with veterans courts. There's a webinar coming up soon. Yes, if you could find that, Suzanne, and I bet Laura's even so quick with her fingers, could get that link for us. And also, I had mentioned some other disaster planning. I wanna say TLPI also had a really good COVID response on your page, Suzanne, that was, oh, look, see, told you she's quick. So Laura put the link up for TLPI's Working with Veterans Court, a webinar that's coming up. This is what I love, being able to exchange information. But TLPI is a great page, even if you could put their page on here as well. Because I know that's part of what's been a challenge, is there's so much going on out there in Indian country. Is, you know, how can we also help organize some of this related to child welfare for you all? So good. And, you know, again, you know, we'll be sending out, for those who aren't coming on the call today, we want to make sure that we are sending out a registration. So you may see that to sign up to make it kind of more official. That'll probably come from Laura, and yeah, and that we're going to just capture some more of this feedback. So good, that's great. I'm excited about the constituency engagement that we want to do. I'm just going to check the time here. It's 2:51, so we could potentially keep moving along. And we have a few more things we wanted to just share with you before we have to close today. So if you guys want to switch that slide for me, that would be fantastic. And again, I don't want to click too much on some of this because I might end up taking it all off. I have to carefully touch the screen. And so again, I just want to, Rita mentioned the Tribal Information Exchange that's out there. And this is where some of the tools that we talked about that Rita had mentioned under the Universal, this is where a lot of them are housed. I'm curious if you guys could put in the chat, have you visited the Tribal Information? We don't have a poll question for this, but I'm just curious, yes or no, if you have visited the Tribal Information Exchange site? In the chat room, yes or no? Oh,
I do have a poll.
Oh my God, she is the best. I'm telling you guys. I love Laura. And this is, have you visited the Tribal Information Exchange website? It's kind of fun to see these coming in. It's kind of half and half. A little more of you have, which is fantastic. And if you have not, I encourage you to take a look. You know, what the beautiful thing about it, you know, we've got Lorraine Brave and some Sandy White. We've got some people out there that I know really helped inform how this website was going to look. So a lot of the products were really created by natives for natives, folks who have been in the field doing the work, recognizing, you know, what we need to see, what we want to see. So I would encourage you all, if you can, to take a few minutes and go into the Tribal Information Exchange and just play around. There is a drop-down link that is the tools for tribes from tribes. I think we have found that a lot of, when we go to do some CQI, some quality improvement, we check to see where folks are going, and we've recognized that a lot of you really appreciate going in and getting a job description or an assessment tool. And that again is under those, the tribal information exchange under the tools for tribes. And then also if you have resources you want to share, there is an easy way that you can click and drop down some of the documents that you all want to share with other tribes. So this is good, yay. And I'm glad that some of you are commenting that you you like the site, and we're always working to improve it. So good, yay. So we can switch, you know, and again, we're also, some of the up and coming resources that I just want you guys to know about. We have one on self-care that's coming up, a resource list. We have one on trauma and healing. You know, I think again, like I mentioned, like I feel so privileged and honored and grateful for being an Indigenous woman because of the resources that I can turn to. And so we recognize that same with everybody else out there in Indian country. So we want to always make sure that we're highlighting those resources. We had a beautiful video, we still do, that was, we did in South Dakota with Rick Two Dogs and Ethleen Two Dogs. And it was really about how we incorporate our traditional ways into the work that we're doing and making sure that our families have what they need, because sometimes we either have not been taught them, we've been removed. But this video kind of walks through an uninterrupted cycle of life for a Lakota person. And it's so beautiful and really could be translated to all of our nations out there, you know, and what happens, you know, in those traditional ways. When a child is, when they're a fetus, you know, and, you know, when they're born, and the spirit that goes along and how it gets stronger as they get back into elder. It's beautiful. So I would just encourage you all to kind of take a look at some of those resources. So good. So the next page that we just, or the next slide we want to turn to is just, again, to mention that, you know, we have really been thinking about ways to be responsive during these times, but we've also been aware that Nick was done some webinars, NCAI, you know, we recognize that NICWE did a beautiful series, NCCD, you know, all these acronyms, but we didn't want to just provide yet another webinar that you might have already seen or heard. We wanted to really kind of be mindful of where tribes are at. And so we are going to be looking at having just a way to support tribal child welfare workforce. That should be coming up soon. So watch for that in your emails. So we will have an announcement and then a registration. Let's see, what else do we have coming down for you guys that you can watch for? I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, let's switch to that. It's so funny because I have the chat room up. I've got people that I'm like so excited about. And then I've got the PowerPoint. I am like multitasking queen right now. So again, I just want to just reiterate just how grateful I am that you guys all joined us today. It's been so wonderful to finally get out there and say, welcome everybody, we're open, we're here, we're excited. We want to mention that we have a webinar survey that will be put up. Sarah is our beautiful evaluator with the center. She's going to be helping us to make sure that we can get feedback, what you guys all felt from this webinar today, and how we can build on that. So we're really doing the best we can meeting your needs with these webinars. So watch for that. It'll be coming up not only in this chat room here, you can link on it there, but we will also follow it up in an email as we always do. So with that, Rita, I just gonna turn it to you to close this out.
Thank you, Jackie. It's hard not to get so caught up in your enthusiasm. You know, she is always just so so positive, and she's just so great to work with. And just hearing her talk about all of our indigenous ways, that's one thing that we really have in common. And so I just want to just say thank you all for attending. I know we're almost at the hour with 1 minute left. And our next slide is how you can contact us. There's a 1-800 number, there's our email, and also our website information again, if you didn't get that down. And so I saw on the poll, we were about 50-50 on those that have seen the tie. So I hope you take some time and just go in and look at it. And there's just so much information. And so as we end this time, this whole hour, it's gone by so fast. It's been so good. I was watching the chat room as Jackie was talking, and I see so many names and people and the resources that are being shared. And I think one of the things that Jackie said is we just want to connect with you. We want to connect you with others. And so that's our biggest, focus is to continue that, continue those conversations. So we know, all of us have our realities that we're living in at this time. And as we move forward, we just want to be very responsive to that. And so as we can be available, I think we have most of us from Center for Tribes, we can be on this call for 10 more minutes. If there's anyone that wants to stay behind, we'll certainly chat with you in the chat room, or, however you have any additional questions. And so just to close our session, I just want to say, I'm with you in spirit. I know what you're going through out there. I have a lot of those realities here at my home. It's affected my family, it's affected some friends, it's, my colleagues. I'm constantly checking in with people. How are you? Are you doing okay? Is there anything you need? And so I think that's one of the areas that I think even with all of this that's happened, that's a positive. We're becoming more aware of the importance of connecting with one another and keeping those relationships. And, there's one person that's on this call, it wasn't long ago, we had a conversation and she was reminding me, this work isn't about us. It's not about you. It's about our families. It's about our children. That's what drives us each and every day. And so just keep that in mind. And that's one thing that we'll do, of course, from the center. And so just keep that, and also how resilient we are, as Indigenous people and those that we know, have similar plight. So also, just hold on to that. So that's it for our session, and thank you again. We had over 100, I think I saw 130 or so that was on the call, so it's so great to see all of you so interested in this work and being a part of it. And so I'm just going to say my prayers, my thoughts are with you as you go on with this work, and we're going to be in touch. We have so many resources, so many products, so many services that we're going to provide. So there's no word for goodbye. It's, every native language you've heard, indigenous language, there's no word for goodbye. So I'm just going to say again, thank you. And thank you all for your time and attention.
Well, sheesh. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.